like to call this regular board meeting for work session to order at 6:01 p.m. Welcome any audience members that we have. Note that it did at one point say 5 o'clock on the website. We apologize for that. The meeting is starting at 6 o'clock. And so I have called us to order. I'll ask I will let everyone know that Mr. Hawley and Mr. Brad Nevin, our interim superintendent, and 3 board members are here in the intermediate middle school cafeteria, along with our other district administrators, Mr. Ames, our business manager, Mrs. Connor in teaching and learning, Mr. Ogden in Human Resources, and Mr. Dool in Student Services. We are in person, and then Mr. Doherty and Ms. Pettit are remote. They're the only 2 who are remote this evening. So that's the situation here. Our meetings are set up for in-person audience if anyone wishes to attend with us, but certainly you are welcome on our Zoom webinars. Mr. Hawley, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Doherty?
Here.
Dr. Lorenz?
Here.
Ms. Pettit?
Here.
Dr. Swetchenow?
Here.
Mrs. Washburn?
Here. All 5 board members are present. We have a work session agenda this evening. We have a couple of discussion announcements. The major portion of our meeting, our agenda shows the major portion would be for presentations of search firms. And then we have an executive session planned for the end of the meeting if we go into it. And so that would be the agenda that you have seen on board docs. And I would ask for a motion to adopt that agenda. I see Mrs. Washburn's hand. Do I see a second?
I can second.
And I hear Dr. Swetchenow. Any questions about the agenda? Seeing none, Mr. Hawley, can we vote on that?
Dr. Lorenz?
Yes.
Ms. Pettit?
Yes.
Dr. Swetchenow?
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn?
Yes.
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Motion carried. We will move into discussion topics, and I believe that Mr. Hawley has an announcement concerning state funding. Mr. Hawley.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Lorenz. So this won't necessarily be a discussion topic. It's more of an update. So I know we have a lot on the agenda this evening, so this won't necessarily take a lot of time, but I have informed the board about this previously, but thought it was appropriate to do it in a board meeting. Our last board meeting, we discussed how state revenues were looking better than what we had previously expected, what the state had previously expected, and then I had a meeting with Ohio Department of Education, and at that present time, they told us that there would most likely not be any changes to state funding at the present time. That was on a Thursday. Friday, Governor DeWine signed an executive order. So sometimes you speak just a little bit too early from the news or the information that you have at that present time. And he signed an executive order to actually restore parts of state funding to school districts. There was a lot of restoration amongst other areas of the state budget, but obviously the one that we're most interested in has to do with schools. If just a little bit of a quick recap, the last 2 years, so state funding was cut last year by roughly about $1 million in Loveland, which is roughly about 8% of our state funding, and similarly in this fiscal year as well. What Governor DeWine did for Loveland in this particular fiscal year was restore us about $550,000. So the current deduction on state funding is going to be roughly about $450,000. We will start to see those coming in during our, we receive 2 payments a month from the state, so we'll start seeing those actually this week. It'll be at the end of the week. So we'll be keeping our eye out on that. I think what's also important just to be aware of when you talk about locally with Loveland, although we are receiving money back from the state, it is important to see kind of how we compare to some of our peers in the state of Ohio. So there's, depending on what number you look at, but in this one in particular, there's 609 districts in the state of Ohio. And if you look at the per pupil deduction, Loveland was 75th, which means we were basically in the top 15% of most affected school districts in the state of Ohio. And if you look locally, which is what I typically look at, Southwest Ohio, is Butler, Warren, Hamilton, and Claremont counties, we were 8 out of 49 districts. So roughly about 16% highest affected. So although we are receiving money back from the state, I would say that Loveland is in a position where generally we are being more affected than other school districts. So I just wanted to give a quick recap on that. Also, Governor DeWine did put his recommendations out for the state budget yesterday. That is required by law. There's not a lot of details at this point, but just an update that he did actually fulfill his obligation at this point in time. So as more information comes out, I'm sure I'll pass it along. Any questions on that?
Thanks, Mr. Hawley. Do I see any board questions for Mr. Hawley?
Kevin, I have one, and I know you've said this already. I just wanted to be reiterated. We had approximately $1 million removed from our budget for this past fiscal year because of state budget cuts. And what they've announced is they're restoring approximately $550,000 of that. So we're ahead of where we thought we'd be a little bit ago, but we're still significantly behind what we had budgeted as monies planned to come to us from the state.
Yes. Yeah. So if you look at 2 years total, about $1.5 million less than what we had anticipated from the state.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I'm unmuted now. I have to say it twice. Also, more in the area of simply an announcement rather than a discussion, you'll see that subject 2.2 is board commitments. And those board commitments are on the website on Board Docs under Administrative File. Those are for board members to look at. You'll recall at our last meeting, we talked about the fact that we'll need to adopt those commitments at our February 16th meeting. And the board asked that I take a stab at making a few tweaks to the fiscal responsibility commitment, which I have done. The administrative team has also made a couple of tweaks to some of the other commitments, some based on changes that perhaps they would like to see as we move forward these commitments, and some based on some of the input that we got from the survey. None of us have been able to deep dive into the survey, but just from a first glance at some of it. So if you would please review those. I believe that Mrs. Connor has created a table for us with the current commitments and the possible changes. And those are the commitments that we will be discussing and adopting at our February 16th meeting. So please make sure to look at those and be prepared with questions, comments. Look for typos if you'd like, but more substantial to see if those are the commitments that we are ready to go forward with for the next year.
Kathy, just to clarify, where are those updated documents again?
I'm sorry, Mr. Doherty, I didn't hear that question.
Yeah, sorry. Just a clarification, where are those updated documents located?
They are in Board Docs under 2.2 board commitments, and it's called administrative content. We can release those, I believe, at some point for public view. Probably will when we do the minutes of this. They'll be released to show that, but they are especially for board members to review and will be viewed and discussed on the 16th.
Thank you.
One other quick announcement I will make. No one on this board has asked, but I know that some board members at Great Oaks had asked about board members receiving the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, through school efforts. And there was conflicting information given. Mr. Ogden in Human Resources has shown me a communique from the state, which clearly shows that board members are not eligible for the vaccine in the different school districts. The vaccine is being given to those who are in the building, who are seeing students. And that I believe is being done for us through the Hamilton County ESC is how we're getting our schedule done. But I just wanted to note that board members are not eligible. Again, no one on this board asked about it, but I just thought I would make that announcement. At that, I think then we will, unless there's anything else from the board members, we will move into search firm presentations. And I believe that Mr. Doherty is going to handle this portion of the meeting.
That's right. Thank you, Kathy. And John Lape, if you can start promoting our first round here. So let me make a few comments for primarily the public's benefit here, but maybe some of the other folks that are in the meeting. One of the key responsibilities of the Board of Education by law is the appointment of a district superintendent and treasurer, who are both charged with accomplishing the mission of our schools and adhering to board policies. We take this role quite seriously and intend to engage with the Loveland community to seek their input at every critical step along the way. Tonight is the first of many steps in that process, where we will listen to 5 different organizations with experience in first determining the candidate profile. That's essentially a description of the qualities of individuals that will be ultimately searched for, and subsequently the key role of finding candidates that fit that profile and assisting us in reviewing them for selection. Tonight, you will hear both similarities as well as differences between these organizations in their scope and their approach. We invite everyone to provide feedback via email to the board after tonight's session. We intend to revisit this subject at our next board meeting on February 16 and hope to make a determination of the organization we will select to partner with going forward. Some of these organizations reached out to us with a request to participate. One has worked with us before in the past, and the remaining 2 were selected by research on players in this search space. The use of a search firm is a highly common approach to finding senior district leadership and carries some cost that you will hear about tonight as well. We believe that given the criticality of the superintendent in our district, that accepting some costs in the process is likely a prudent decision, but that will be debated and determined in open meeting down the road. The sequence of the presentations tonight is the result of a totally randomized process and does not infer bias to any particular organization whatsoever. Each firm will be invited to present for 10 to 15 minutes and may be asked some follow-up questions by board members. I can see that we're ready to go here. Our first presentation this evening is from K-12 Consulting, and joining us is Debbie Campbell. Debbie, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's very
Here you are.
exciting. It's very exciting to be here, and I have to say hi to Brad.
There he is.
I will tell you that I live out in the country without high-speed internet, so I apologize ahead of time if we have any delay in my speaking. But it's an honor to be here this evening to talk with you, and thank you for allowing K-12 to present. I am Deb Campbell, and I would like this evening to give you an overview of using our search firm and what it's like to work with us. We understand, as Kevin said, that it's a partnership between the school board and the search firm. And with K-12, we will work hard to honor that partnership, and we will also work hard to work collaboratively with you, but you control your search. You are the folks who are in control. So let me first begin by sharing my PowerPoint. If you'll just give me a minute, I think I have the option to share my screen. And we're ready to go. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, I'm going to talk about what sets us apart. Why are we different from other search firms? And I think one of the things that sets us apart is we have 2 consultants that we assign to every search from the beginning of the search to the end. And it's important that you know that our people that we have in our search firm will make a huge difference as we go about recruiting and vetting the quality candidates that you want for your position. I sent you ahead of time a search document, search services document, and on pages 10 and 11, you will see the search consultants that work for K-12 business consulting. As you read our bios, you'll see that 3 of us were past presidents of the Buckeye Association of School Administrators, and that's an honor bestowed on us by our colleagues when we were superintendents. That gives us a network statewide. We worked with superintendents throughout the state. One of our consultants is the past president of OASBO, Chris Moore. He's also the CEO of our organization. So one of the strengths of working with us is that we have 3 search consultants that worked at BASA. We've made statewide connections, and they're all still alive and well with the boards we have worked with and with the superintendents we've worked with. So I'm proud to say that our consultants are well respected throughout the state of Ohio, and it brings us a unique ability to really vet candidates and bring you the best of the best. People take our phone calls when we call and reach out to them to talk about a search. We have also done a national component to searches. I did not talk about that tonight. Not all school districts wish to have that. So if you're interested in that, I can answer questions about that. I want to talk about the key attributes that makes us a little different than other folks. One, I've already said, it's our people that make the difference. We are very strong in recruiting and vetting, and you are going to have multiple search consultants assigned to your search. We have a really strong staff and community engagement process, and it goes from the beginning of the search to the end of the search. We develop, as Kevin said, a search profile, and that is a look at your district. We do that. It's about 13 pages. And what we do is we talk about the strengths of your district. We talk about the challenges of your district. And we talk about what's the new superintendent need to look like. You'll see a sample of the questionnaire that we use on page 14 and 15. We use that as an online tool to gather information. We also use it as a hard copy tool in your buildings, and we do focus groups. And we engage about 7 different focus groups. I'm proud to say that we have conducted probably 4 searches during COVID successfully, with a mix of doing in-person meetings within the guidelines of the health department, and also with doing virtual meetings via Zoom. So I feel confident that we can meet the needs of your district that way. The search profile is on pages 16 through 27, and you can kind of see that in your document. That gives you a little bit of an idea of how we develop that search profile and what it looks like in the end. Another strong component we have is we work with the board and send you weekly updates so you know where we are in the search. You know what's going on. We work also with either your district liaison to make sure we're sending a consistent message to all of your stakeholders. that they know the timeline, they know what's happening, and we make sure that everyone is informed and that the search is very transparent. Another key value that we believe we add is that we post your position with BASA and with OECN, which is a statewide network. Both of those postings are at no cost to your district, but it is where folks look when they're looking for a position. So we agree upon a calendar, and then we set those weeks, 5 to 6 weeks, where we actually recruit candidates to bring to the board. Some search firms will weed through those applications. We feel like the board needs to see every application packet. You are the person hiring. You are the person that best knows your district, even though by the end of the search, we feel like we know your district pretty well, and we become very in tune with what's going on. But we want to make sure that you see everybody that applies for that job. We will give you our professional opinion about who we think is a good fit for you, and we'll actually help you with deciding who you want to interview by answering questions that tell you about the vetting process and what we've learned about each candidate. We do advise, we have a past president of the Treasurers Association, so we advise the board on salary, wages, and benefits, and we also help with the negotiation of that superintendent contract. We feel that's really critical because sometimes a person coming into a district may ask for more than the board wants to give that person, and we can act as that buffer to make sure that we negotiate the kind of contract the board is comfortable with, and then ultimately the candidate is comfortable with. And then there's a nice marriage of that beginning for the board and the new superintendent. And finally, we customize our searches to meet your needs. Now, we do have a 6-step process that we use. It's tried and true. We have placed superintendents all over the state of Ohio since 2001, and most of them have a tenure of 5 to 8 years. So we work hard to make sure that the match that you want is there. You will see that 6-step process on page 1 of your services document. And then also you will see the types of searches that we provide. And we know one size does not fit all. So we have on pages 7 and 8, you'll see the different levels of searches that we can provide and can modify for you, however you would like them modified. And then I want to kind of have you turn your attention to page 6, because that gives you our guarantee. And that's very important. We are a search firm that believes that if we made the wrong match and you are not happy within that first year, that we need to come back and make it right. We want our clients to be happy with their new leader. So that you can read that on page 6. And then pages 2 through 6 are frequently asked questions by board members. And that is very helpful sometimes for you to look at. But I can answer any question tonight. We do design the search to meet your needs. I want you to understand that a good search takes 5 to 6 weeks of posting. And so we would want to meet with you late February or early March to organize the search, make sure we have all the dates secured, that everyone is on the same page, and post that position as soon as possible with BASA and OECN. In March, we would want to do some kind of a community engagement process where we engage the board, the staff, the community to develop that superintendent search profile that I talked to you about. And that profile will show strengths of the district, challenges of the district, and the characteristics you would like to see in your new superintendent. Then March through April is the hard work for K-12 because that's our time to recruit and vet all the candidates. Now, we will vet every candidate who applies for the job. We won't just vet those candidates that we're recruiting. So we're not the FBI, so we're not going to be able to find out everything, but we have enough connections throughout the state that we're able to find out about candidates and maybe something that we would want to bring to your attention, because if we're bringing a candidate to you, we want you not to have any surprises. Then in April, the board members, 1 week after the deadline for the search, you will receive the password to a secure portal. And in that portal will be all of the applicants that you can go through and look at their entire application packet. We also provide for you a work history summary. It's easier for you to use as you look through those applications. We will already have condensed the 12 to 15 pages of applications, so you know where they work and some of the strengths. And then we meet with you after you've had an opportunity to look at all that, and you determine who you would like to interview. We give you our professional opinion about who might be a good match for you, and we pride ourselves in that, but we let you make the final decision as to who you're going to interview. Then in April, we begin the interview process, and we do manage that interview process for you. We will give you a bank of questions that you can look at and determine what you would like to ask your candidates. Our first round interviews are usually canned questions that every applicant answers. And then our second round interviews, which you don't have as many folks in those interviews, but they're targeted to what people in that search profile said were challenges facing your district. And so then those candidates will be asked to present to you how they would address those issues and what they would do to look at them right off the bat as they're beginning their superintendency there. We provide an interview notebook for you to keep you organized. And so we feel like late April or early May, you can be hiring your new superintendent. So that kind of gives you a timeline of how we work. We would suggest that May through August is a transition period. I know Brad Nevin, I know he wants that next person to be successful. And so we would encourage you to have a transition period where they work with you, they work with your teachers union. Sorry, my phone, I've got it on mute and it just keeps ringing. But we have all kinds of transition contracts that you can look at. Then your new superintendent can begin August 1. Since you have an interim, sometimes folks like that superintendent to begin earlier. And that's something, as we set up the search, we set all those parameters so we know exactly what your needs are and what you want. Now, I tried to do that as quickly as I could and yet give you as much information as you might need. And I just want to say to you that it really was an honor to get to speak with you today and to discuss a little bit about our company. K-12 would love to work with you as you secure your new superintendent, and I'm willing to take questions if anyone has any.
Debbie, let me just say thank you. You nailed that right at 15 minutes.
I practiced.
Very good. So if any members have questions or observations they'd like to share at this point, please go ahead. If not, I have just
Kevin?
one question for you.
Kevin, I have one question, if I may.
Yeah, please, Kathy.
Kathy Lorenz.
Hi.
I would just like to know, because you are a respected search firm, I wonder if you could speak for just a moment about either conflicts or overlaps with other districts that might be searching for a superintendent, just to tell a little bit about how a search company deals with that kind of thing.
Okay, well, you all are probably very aware that we have the Sycamore City Search. It's very close to you. And we are recruiting some very quality candidates there because they're a little bit ahead of you. But let me say to you that only one person gets the job. And we feel like if we don't bring you 6 qualified candidates, we're not doing our job. Now, that being said, I'm going to tell you that your district is different than Sycamore. And what we find out through that search profile about what your community, your board, your administration, and staff are working will key us into the candidates we should recruit, because it is a personalized process. So maybe some of the candidates would be the same. I don't know. I feel like I need to know you better to know exactly who we should recruit for you and who will be the best fit. Fit is extremely important to our company. We want to make sure that we have someone that's going to stay with you for 4 to 5 to 7 to 8 years.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or observations from the board? Brad or Kevin, anything that you'd like to raise? Okay, if not, we'll end it there. Deb, thank you again so much. We'll be in touch subsequent to this meeting, and we'll have more to talk about a little bit down the road. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. It was an honor to get to be with you this evening. And if you don't mind, I'll leave the meeting since my husband is waiting dinner.
Okay, very good, Deb. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. John Leap, you can, okay, great. And our next presentation is from the Ohio School Boards Association, what everybody affectionately refers to as OSBA. And joining us is Terry Morgan and Steve Horton. I think we're just in the process of bringing them into the room. So bear with us one moment while Mr. Late gets them. There's Terry. And there's Steve.
Yes, we're here.
Hello, Terry, and where's Steve? Yeah, just coming alive now.
And yes, unmuting and taking the video.
Okay, very good. And let me get your deck brought up here.
I'll go ahead and say, Kevin, it was a pleasure talking with you about how OSBA conducts searches. And I have brought along colleague Steve Horton, who's actually going to do the presentation this evening, although we are both available. So.
Okay, very good. Everybody can see the opening slide, I hope?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, very good. Steve, Terry, take it away.
Great. Well, thank you for having us here tonight. It is a pleasure for Terry and I to be here, to be able to talk to you about our search process. Being from the Cincinnati area, I can honestly say that one of my favorite areas around Cincinnati is Loveland. And so I love your district, and I've always thought very highly of what you do in Loveland. And so it's our pleasure to be able to talk to you about our search process. what we do, how we do it, why we do it. So here's the whirlwind tour. You did get a proposal, and that has in detail the things that I'm going to highlight here tonight. But I do want to point out that it is important for us that every search that we do is an effort that we do with and in relationship with you as the school board, and with your stakeholders in your district. We believe that that's important. We believe that it needs to be honest and transparent throughout. All of those things go into making it a very successful search for the district. We do also believe that our purpose is supporting school boards. We are your professional organization, and that's what we do on an ongoing basis every day. And so within our organization, the three of us consultants, myself, Terry, and Cheryl Ryan, who is not with us tonight, all equally work on searches. We're very much involved in all of the searches. Every search has a lead consultant, and we've all been board members. We've been in your seat. We've been through the process as board members. And now we have the pleasure of being able to lead boards through the process as consultants on this side of it. So we do think that you are the board, is your decision. It's the most critical decision you make as a governing body of your district. And so it's extremely important to us that we, with you, get to the best person to lead your district moving forward. So that is always our goal in every single search that we do. We understand that no two districts are the same. Literally 100% of the districts in the state of Ohio are members of our organization. We work with them all, and we understand how different every district is from the others, and how important being able to work with you, learning what your needs are, being able to develop the search process to best fit your needs and to best fit the work that you need to do as a board to choose the proper superintendent to lead your district is crucial. So we are here to work through that process with you. We take nothing on our own. It's all done in concert with the board, and that ultimately you hold the ultimate decision making, because it is the decision that you have to make legally as a body in the state of Ohio. So you make all of the key decisions, and you, as a board, as I'm going to talk about, review all of the candidates before you start the interview process. So some things to consider. We do work very hard to customize every single search that we do for the needs of the board. We want to be here with you to make sure that it is a good experience for you and that you feel like you are being well supported throughout. One couple of the things I am going to talk about are unique to our searches, absolutely. And I'm going to get into our achiever assessment and our Revelis software that we have developed for the candidate application process and the reviewing of candidates, both on your part and ours. So I'll talk about those in just a few minutes. And then one of the things that we think is very important is that you're a member of our organization. We don't just walk away at the end of the search. We want to make sure that you have the opportunity to come together as a leadership team and be able to partake in a leadership development session that's crucial for getting everybody together, talking about communication and best communication now that you will be a new team with a new superintendent at the helm of your district. So those are the things we want you to know specifically about our search. Our process is basically 5 parts. We are going to work very closely with you, both in our own research and with you, to understand your district and your needs so that we can work with you to find the best possible candidate to fit. We have the ability, and I'll talk about that as well, to be able to recruit outside of the state of Ohio, to bring you a much larger pool to be able to choose from. The screening process is extremely important, and the candidate evaluation part needs to be board centered. Again, it's your decision. You make that decision, and you need to be able to work together to do that. In fact, in working through the process, one of the beautiful things about going through a superintendent search is it is a great team building experience for you as a board, and that is one of the strong parts of doing this as a board together. And then in the end, working with you to the final appointment of your superintendent. So give you an idea of the timeline. The first thing we want to do right out of the gate is to meet with you and learn about your district from your perspective, understand what it is you are looking for, so that we can create a brochure and post. One of the things that we do in our search process, and that I think we use extremely effectively, is an extensive database. Because we represent all the school districts in the state of Ohio, it is our ability to have as extensive, if not more extensive, database to pull from and to be able to utilize in a very effective way than I think anybody else out there. One of the things that you'll see on this timeline description are focus groups. We look forward to coming into the district and spending time with stakeholder groups, learning from them what they're looking for. That really goes into the screening and the interviewing process that follows. And one of the things that we've also found out we're extremely nimble at and effective at with the advent of COVID, in the searches that we've done, I think we've done some things extremely well remotely. Things like the planning meeting, the screening meeting, we've done very effectively. We also have been able to combine electronic means to hear from stakeholders, Zoom focus groups. We've done those very effectively. And yes, we have been able to do in person as well. So there's really kind of a three-pronged attack that we can take to making sure that we hear from the stakeholders. And what follows that then is a very complete report that comes to you, informed by the common themes that come from the things that we hear from your stakeholders. That goes directly to the process of screening candidates and ultimately interviewing and evaluating the candidates. And we are there with you through that process as well. One of the things I do want to talk about that we work with very heavily is a group called NAS. It's a National Affiliation of Superintendent Searchers. These are associations across the country that are doing the same kind of superintendent and treasurer search work that we are. We learn from them in terms of best practice, and we share a lot of candidate information. It is a very, very valuable tool for us as we do every search that we do in the state. And so we draw on that, and it allows us then to get Loveland and your search out there well beyond Ohio in a much broader sense. Our goal is always to bring you the broadest, deepest pool of candidates we possibly can to look at and evaluate. I want to talk about the Achiever. This is something that we have used now for some time in our searches, and it's also something that, ironically, in my private world work that I did prior to coming to OSBA, the corporation that I work for in all of our searches utilize the same company that the Achiever comes from. And OSBA has effectively taken that tool and made it a tool that we can use specifically for superintendent and treasurer candidates. It allows you to get a much deeper view, a very in-depth and scientifically proven look at how your potential superintendent, we do this for all of our finalist candidates, how they communicate, how they work with others, what are their personal traits, what do you learn quite a bit from about their cognitive skills. So it also offers an array of interview questions that you can use. It will look at the report and pull out things that you might want to know more about that candidate from that report. And boards have found those interview questions to be invaluable as you go into the second round process of interviewing finalist candidates to make that decision on who you want to offer the position to. And it also gives you insight into potential professional development. Here are some things this candidate should think about and work on as you move forward with that. So it is a tremendous tool that's part of the search process. I want to talk about Revelis. Revelis is actually a software we developed in-house with us as the board services search team at OSBA and our IT team, very talented group. We actually had the ability to sit down and really review what we we do in our searches and to figure out how we could make it better. And so Revelis really has transformed the way we do searches. This has become such a robust, wonderful tool, not just for us as search consultants, for the candidates who apply. I've gotten responses from candidates who said, thank you for the application process. We make it professional and complete for them. We make it easy for them to upload their information. We make it easy for you to be able to go in prior to our screening meeting that we have with the candidates to look at all the candidate information. And it's laid out in a way that it makes it so easy for you to look at and understand all of the information that the candidates have submitted. And it does it in a consistent way. So when you bring up candidate A, you'll see all of their information, their work history, their education, resume, cover letter, references. All of those are laid out identically to each candidate. So as much as possible, you're comparing candidates in a like way, and you're able to discern the important differences between the candidates. And so we believe that tool is essential in success for you as a board. We believe also that we need to include your stakeholders. As I've already talked about, that is an essential part of the search process, is getting that information and using it. We use it in terms of how we set up the search and how we interview the candidates. So all of that goes toward making the best possible selection. So the important thing to keep in mind is that Revelis really brings together a culmination of kind of a two-pronged approach to your candidate pool. One is, before we meet with you, we have opened up a portal for you, a place in Revelis that you can go in and you can securely look at all of the candidates. It even has a place built in where you can keep your own notes, secure to you within that software. We look at the same information, but we look at it both internally and externally. We have a team of external screeners that we bring together, and we all look at it and we discuss the candidates in detail. We want to be able to share with you everything we possibly can about the candidates in your pool, and to work with you in the decision on who you're going to move forward. Those 6 to 8 candidates that kind of rise to the surface, and you say, okay, I want to know more about them. And then we work with you in developing an interview script for your candidates that come in that first round. One of the things that we also do in terms of the timeline is then there is a second round interview that is much more tailored. Then you've had the opportunity to review references for the candidates. You've looked at the achiever information for each one of your finalists, and you have the questions that generates. And then you also, from your own information that you gained in that first round, are going to have things that you want to know more about. So that second round allows you to dive deeper into each one of your finalist candidates. Usually it's 3, sometimes 4 candidates that you move out of the first round into the second round. The other thing that it allows us to do is, in a variety of ways, and we can work with you on this, is open up that process to stakeholders from the outside to be able to get valuable input from people from within your district and within your community as well. So things that we want you to remember: you are the decision makers. You hold the key to the decision. We understand that you are a unique community, you are a unique different district, and you need a uniquely customized process for you. We do not filter information for you. We help you look at the candidates that you have, and we work to be as fair and transparent as we possibly can, so that you are conducting a search that has integrity and that serves your district and your community well. And then in the end, we also offer a leadership development session that is included in the package so that you can work with your new superintendent and get the whole team off to a good start. And we'll offer that within 6 months of the start of that new superintendent. And then the important guarantee is we never, ever just walk away from a district. We want to be there with you until that superintendent is on board and that superintendent is leading your district. And even after that, we're going to stay in touch because, again, we're your organization. You are our members. And being in touch with you is the most important thing we do as an organization, and being there to support you. So that's the stuff I have to share. I think I'm at my time limit. So that's all I got. But I
Again,
just want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk to you all and share with you the important things to know about our process.
yeah, thank you very much, Steve. Again, right on time. Appreciate that. Any questions or comments from the board or other participants in tonight's meeting?
Kevin?
Kathy, please.
Just a quick question. Obviously, Loveland is familiar with OSBA and its search capabilities. I was just curious if you have tailored to other districts the amount of community input that comes in. In other words, I know that there's a community input with the school community, with the staff, with the administrators. I wonder if you have any districts that have asked for a little bit more community engagement, maybe asking questions about what the district needs and wants as a district as a whole, as opposed to just what we're looking for in a superintendent.
Yeah, in fact, that part of the search, both as I mentioned in that second round interviewing process and with the focus groups, the stakeholder groups that we meet with, that is one of the very customizable parts of the process, so that we can work with you and work to meet your needs as far as that goes. And that is so valuable to us as consultants as well, in helping you work through the search and deciding on the best possible candidate.
And we have also offered a different avenue. We can do a Survey Monkey. If it's a stakeholder group that's hard to bring together, like perhaps your bus drivers, or it's a community group that wants to have a specific Chamber of Commerce businesses comment. Again, we can do an online survey, we can do in-person meetings. Those are the conversations that we'd have about who do you want to hear from? And we always in focus groups ask at least 3 questions. What are the issues and challenges facing Loveland in the coming years? What personal and professional characteristics would you like to see in your new superintendent? And what do you believe the district needs to carry forward?
Yeah. And all of that. The other part of that too is I always tell boards that the information you get back from that is golden. That report that you get back is so important to you because you're hearing directly from your stakeholders in ways that you can't hear in your normal work through your board meetings and that work together. So that's just another aspect of what the search brings to you as a governance team.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments from the participants here? Okay, if not, let me thank again Steve and Terry. Very good presentation. Appreciate you being with us tonight, and we will be back in touch, okay?
Thank you
Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be with you tonight.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Mr. Lape, if you could, thank you. Our third presentation this evening is from CF Educational Solutions. And we will have 2 gentlemen, Bob Summers and Bob Farrell, joining us here just as soon as Mr. Lape gets them brought into the room. There's Bob Farrell, I see. And we're just trying to bring Mr. Summers in. And here we go. Okay, welcome, Bob and Bob. We're going to have to work to keep the two of you distinct here. I have a short slide that I can put up when you want. Just let me know. But let me turn it over to the two of you.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you for the opportunity to present. Bob Farrell is going to be taking the lead as a highly experienced superintendent right in your neighborhood. And the other folks that are very close by are included on our team. But I'm going to turn it over to Bob and let him describe how we would approach your search for your next school leader. Bob?
Well, good evening, board. It's great to see you again. I'm a member of the CF Educational Solutions Search Team. Our team is comprised of 4 former superintendents. Will all be involved in the process in the entire time. They have 50 years of work experience, and it helps, when we attract other superintendents and relate to them and evaluate talent when you've done the job before. And most of our experience as superintendents has actually been in the Cincinnati area, so we have a lot of local contacts. We also have worked throughout the state of Ohio and in other states, and we have national connections as well. I worked in nearby Milford, as some of you know, and though I didn't know your last superintendent because I was retired, I knew and worked with your previous superintendents, Chad Hilliker, John Marshausen, Kevin Boyce, wonderful people. And I'm very aware of what a wonderful place Loveland Schools, an outstanding district it is, and a wonderful place to work and live. Matter of fact, my daughter is trying to get into the district, but these houses go so fast, she hasn't gotten one yet. But our purpose, as well as the purpose of all the firms that you're going to hear from tonight, is to find the best superintendent for Loveland Schools that will serve the district and help your students to be successful. But throughout this presentation, I just want to point out how our firm is unique and it's different in our approach than some of the other firms that you're going to hear from tonight. We believe that our process involves the community at large in the school community in a way that their voices are going to be listened to and valued, and that they're going to be involved in meaningful ways in the entire process in the selection of the new superintendent. Our search process is different because it's comprehensive, and it's a collaborative relationship between ourselves and their school board and the community. In our first phase of the process, we're going to work, as you've heard in other presentations, with the board and the community to establish a district profile for the new superintendent. But we start at a different place. We work with the board to determine what your aspirations are for your students in Loveland. Because really, isn't that what it's all about, is how we're going to impact the students and how this new leader is going to impact the students. So what is it that the board in the district aspires for their students? And then this is an amazing part. We involve thousands of participants from your community at large, from your parents group, your teacher group, your classified staff, your school administrations, and of course, your students. And we do this by using an interactive survey tool, and it's called Thought Exchange. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, but we could set the board up on a trial where you experience it yourselves, because it truly is amazing. It's an online tool that's perfect for this COVID time because it allows participants to respond to open-ended questions and then see the anonymous responses of others. And then they prioritize what responses they like best. And in this way, the tool helps each group come to a consensus. And this consensus data generated from this approach is so much more profound than a typical survey data in which participants can only answer to prescribed questions. And it's better than a focus group because of the limits, the extreme limits on participation of a focus group. So we take this consensual service survey data, we take the board aspirational data, we take student achievement data, district descriptive data, and we develop this comprehensive report that we share with all potential candidates. And I think we shared a copy of one of those reports with Mr. Doherty, but we'll be glad to get it out to the whole board. It has so much more information than the typical trifold brochure or other reports used by some firms. It gives potential candidates a more complete picture of the district. And we find that it attracts candidates because they know so much more about the district before they apply. We next start with the recruiting of the talent and developing talent brochures. And we start with our own pool of candidates. We have a large pool of candidates, and then the state of Ohio, and then across the nation. But our recruiting is different than some firms. We do all the postings. We have the networks. We reach out to a wide range of candidates throughout Ohio and throughout the country. But we take recruiting another step further. We will personally call the candidates that we know that they're, from what we've heard from the data and the report that we did on the Loveland schools, we know what their qualities, it seems like they match Loveland schools. So we make a personal call to them and we encourage them to apply. And a lot of times it's just that call that we make that they take that risk to apply. And we've had finalists and we've had superintendents that have been chosen in other districts who said that if we hadn't made that call, they would never have applied. Our team then takes another step that some firms, I haven't heard any firm that does this. We, the four of us, interview every candidate that applies, every candidate. And it's not a short interview. It's an hour to an hour and a half interview. And we rate their skills, and we rate their skills according to leadership criteria that have been identified for success in world-class organizations. Our questions require a depth of responses to questions like on strategic planning, on student stakeholder focus, on workforce focus, and other topics and themes. And if the candidate cannot demonstrate that they have systematically applied particular strategy in their work experiences, they're not going to score well on these rubrics. These rubrics have been developed from responses from executives from successful organizations. And the depth of responses required to score well and the use of a rubric makes this rating system far better than a rating system of 1 to 5 with minimal guidelines that is sometimes used by other firms. In the next phase, the board and the school or community groups that are involved, they have to determine who they're going to interview. Well, they receive so much helpful information from us. You have the resumes, but we share our ratings and the talent profiles that we've developed from the interviews and the background checks and the reference checks. And this comprehensive information makes it easy for the board to select who will go on to the first round. For the interviews, we help with recommendations for questions, for rating systems. And also we sit in on every interview and offer assistance as needed. So we'll sit in on the community group interviews, the board interviews, all of that, and help and provide assistance throughout all of the rounds. After the rounds of interviews are completed, the board has selected the new superintendent. One of the most unique and important services of our firm is that we continue to provide support to the new superintendent and the school board. We will help with the new contract for the new superintendent, but we will then provide 6 months of support to the board and the new superintendent to help with the transition process. And this support can take many forms. It's not a one-shot deal. We'll provide help with board governance. We'll conduct mentoring meetings with the new superintendent if needed. We'll be available for phone calls, emails, text, and share our experiences with the new superintendent as they encounter all the challenges that our superintendents do today. So why would you choose us? As I think you've heard, our approach is different. It's more comprehensive than most and very labor intensive. We're about the collaborative relationship and inclusion of all school community and the community at large. At the end of the process, we want the best superintendent for Loveland and its students, but we also want the community to be able to say that it's been a transparent process and that they've had a voice throughout the process. And that together, they'll want to unite with a new superintendent in the school board to support the students of Loveland. We do also have a guarantee. It's a 2-year guarantee. If for some reason the situation does not work out, within 2 years, we will conduct the search again for free. And Dr. Summers, I think you probably have other things to add.
Yes, thank you, Bob. And Bob's covered all the highlights of a lot of details. We provided a detailed proposal to you, and hopefully you had a chance to read that. I want to speak to a couple of things. One is we're as a company, CF Educational Solutions, we are in the business of finding solutions for people that have problems in education, K-12 in particular. Although we do superintendent searches on a regular basis, it is central to our belief that great leadership is necessary for long-term success. Our mission is the endless pursuit of student success, and we believe our only customer is to achieve student success. So that's why we're in this business with you. We've not been around a long time as a company, but the people involved have been around a really long time. I personally have spent my entire career in education. Bob Farrell, many of you know Adrian James from Sycamore. You also will see that we have Nick Wall from Indiana. We included him for you to recognize the stretch and reach that we have. We work with school districts that represent about 750,000 students today. So we have a very extensive network of people. The reason that's probably important at this juncture is because we not only will do the superintendent search, but our guarantee backup of providing assistance is very easy for us to do, to deploy a whole range of opportunities, everything from board governance to assessment to instruction to systems design. We want you to know that as a team, we're committed to this. We are not a volume search firm. We're very selective. We find Loveland to be a wonderful school district that matches the profile of school districts that we can work with. So we're not in the business of having lots of searches. Yours will be the one that we spend a lot of time on and pay attention to. We also want to be real clear on the community engagement part. We had a similar situation in Canfield. We completed that search in the midst of COVID. We started right before COVID and lived through it all the way through. So we are very familiar with the process of doing everything virtually right up to the final interview by the board. But they, in particular, had some challenges of working with the community and making sure there was transparency and engagement. And I'd encourage you to call Dave Wilkerson, the board president, to talk to him firsthand how our experience was. They had a tremendous experience. We had lots of candidates, but more importantly, we had high quality candidates. And what we were able to do with them was actually engage a stakeholder group from the community and bring them along as an advisory body to the board as they selected the superintendent. So we fielded this fairly robust, diverse group of community leaders to walk through the same things we did with the board, only to do it with them, to help them come up with their skill sets so that they could advise the board on the skill sets and the efforts. We engaged them in preliminary review of what we call candidate profiles, candidate choice profiles. We work very hard with them all the way through the process, even up to and including the final interviews. We had a joint interviewing process. Not that you may want to do that or not, but we have the capacity to do some very, very extensive and unique work with you. We also work really hard on diversity. We want to make sure that we maximize the potential of your candidates, both from gender and race diversity. And so you'll see our processes involved in making sure that a full suite of candidates, not just the good old Noy network that might be roaming around the state of Ohio. So we really want to make sure that we have the very best candidates in place for you. With that, I think we've covered a lot of ground in very short time. We want to honor your time. We hope that you'll spend time reviewing the materials that we provided you, and hopefully that is useful. And we'd entertain any questions.
I have one quick one here for Bob Farrell. You referred to a document. I just want to make sure. I think you were referring to the Canfield document.
Yes,
Okay.
was.
And board members, you should all have that as part of the deck for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Just want to make sure.
I did fail. If you want to get the experience on the superintendent candidate side, we take that very seriously to make sure our candidates are well cared for and respected all the way through. Natasha Adams is a superintendent that we placed in West Claremont. If you want to call her directly and have a conversation about how the candidates are managed, it's very important for your reputation as well as ours to do a good job of working with candidates and treat them. Talent is hard to come by, and we want to take good care of.
Right. Let me turn it over to anybody on the panel here that might have a question or a comment. Please go ahead and ask that. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. So let me thank Bob and Bob. Nice job tonight. Thank you. Thank you for helping us out on this. And we'll be back in touch with you shortly. Okay.
Thank you.
And the very best to your search, regardless of who you choose.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Lape. Okay, very good. Our fourth presentation this evening is from BWP Associates. And joining us will be Phil Earhart, Kathleen Williams, and Joe Porto. So we're bringing them in right now. Give us just a moment. And I think I see Camera, you're there, and I understand you're going to be working the slides for this presentation.
Good afternoon, Mr. Doherty. Yes.
Thank you. Phil and Joe and Kathleen. There's Kathleen. Okay, so I think everybody is here, correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, so welcome all of you. Appreciate you being with us this evening. And I'll turn it right over to you and we'll get started.
Thank you, Kevin, members of
You
the
bet.
board. First of all, we'd like to commend you for having 5 search firms to try to find the one that's best going to meet your needs. As you know, this is the most important decision that you're going to be making as a board. I think the thing that you will find that will be unique about our search firm is that we will have a local presence in the state of Ohio. We will also have with that the national overview of it, and then also from the Midwest as well. I've been conducting searches for BWP for 11 years and have been a partner for 5 years and done about 30 searches for that as well. Cam, I think you have the PowerPoint for you to put up on there, if you would, please.
Phil, it is sharing. Can everybody see the PowerPoint?
We see a
Uh,
Word document.
It's got
right
a
now.
page, like a candidate page. It's
It's
not our.
Prince William on there instead of the.
I don't understand. Oh, hold on. Excuse me 1 second.
While she's doing that, I'll go ahead and introduce myself and then our rest of our firm. Thank you,
My
Cam.
apologies. There you
No
go.
problem. The three people who will be working on this will be myself, Dr. Joe Porto, and Kathleen Williams. We are all directors and partners in the firm. These are going to be the three people you're going to be working with throughout the entire process with that. At this time, this is the search we'll be focusing upon. We don't have other searches that we're doing at the current time with that as well. I have served as administrator in Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois. In Ohio, I was the superintendent of Lakota before I moved on to Illinois, so I know the area very well. I also have a family relative who has lived in your area for over 40 years, and he loves Loveland, which is wonderful to have as well. Also, I'm the program chair for the Midwest Suburban Superintendents Association, which is consisted of superintendents from 8 Midwestern states. Currently, I interact with 10 current superintendents and about another 4 or 5 retired superintendents. So I have a definite pulse on what is going on in Ohio throughout that as well. I've also served as an adjunct professor for 3 universities and have worked closely with candidates who will be pursuing superintendents as well. At this time, I'd like to introduce Kathleen. If you would please come on and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. So very pleased to be with you. I will be bringing to this team 40 plus years of experience in the field of education, serving as a teacher in the classroom, as a principal at all grade levels, an assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, staff operations, and communication. In addition, I have been a superintendent of schools for 18 years, serving in the states of Kansas, Illinois, and Wisconsin. I'm a born and bred Hoosier, and I still have strong roots there, that is for sure. In addition, I bring to the team experience in a district much like Loveland's in terms of not only enrollment, but of pre-K through 12 experience. And in addition, in each of the school districts of which I served, I was blessed to have helped pass 3 levies and grappled with the good, the bad, and the ugly of all of that, and hope to be able to bring to you and your school district some of my experiences as well.
Thank you, Kathleen. Next, we have Joe, and Joe's going to introduce himself, and then he'll get started with our presentation so we stay within our 15-minute allocation. Joe?
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Porto. Like Phil and Kathleen, I also am a retired superintendent. I was a superintendent for 16 years, and my 2 districts that I was superintendent in were suburban districts in the Chicago area. My districts were high performing, high expectations, informed and involved parents. So I know the kind of school district Loveland is, and I would bring that experience to you. Since retiring from the superintendency, I've been an associate and now a partner with BWP, a college professor at Northern Illinois University. And also I have my own consulting firm where I specialize in strategic planning and a portrait of a graduate work. So nice to meet everybody. Cam,
Joe, would you like to kick it off for us?
Yeah, let's move on. So the first thing I want to mention, and I think this is important, we're the first of the firms that you've talked to that can say this. We're a national firm. We have a presence across the country. We have partners and associates countrywide. But what we think we are going to be able to bring to you that will be attractive is that while we're a national firm, we have a local Midwest specialty. And we've done many, many searches in Wisconsin, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan. So we think we can bring you the best of both worlds. If the best candidate, the one that matches the profile best for Loveland, is somebody who's currently working in Ohio, we'll find he or she for you. But if perhaps there's somebody who are in the Midwest and are looking for a new challenge and we think everything matches up, we'll be able to do that for you too. So we think that's a unique perspective that we bring. Of course, our goal is stated here. We want to bring you the best candidates available for you to select from. And I also want to mention that we're a full service firm. We conduct searches for principals and central office positions, do workshops, and so on. We understand that you're looking to replace a highly valued principal in your district, your high school principal. Sounds like she's had a long, stellar career in your district, and you'll be launching a search concurrently with the superintendent search. We'd be able to either help you with that search or at the very least, coordinate the timing and all of the procedures so that those two searches work together and can have the highest impact. Next slide. This is you. You know this about yourself. Why would we include this on the slide? Simple, quick answer. We specialize in customizing the search to meet your needs. When you hear that we're a national search firm with a Midwest specialty, it kind of sounds big and imposing. But what we really excel at is getting to know who you are, what you are all about. Kathleen's going to take you through the many things we do with your community to get a feel for what you're looking for and the best profile. But we do everything possible to match candidates to the unique needs of the district. And so that's why we've already started researching Loveland, and we're going to want to get to know everything about you to do the very best job we can. And one more. So why BWP? You've heard some of the other firms go through their processes, and we'll tell you that ours is very similar. We each have little unique things, but I think you're going to find that most of us follow pretty much the same process, pretty much the same timeline. So what makes us stand out and helps you with making this important decision? Well, excuse me. One of the things that we really wanted to mention, again, was the customization and the working with you every step of the way. We wanted to mention the unique profile that we'll be preparing and the work we do to match candidates with the profile. And that leads us into what I think our biggest strength is. We excel at recruiting candidates for your position. We do not just hang up an announcement of the search and keep our fingers crossed and just hope that the right people apply. We do all of the recruiting we need to, but we also pick up the phone, and this is where the power, the reach of a national firm can kick in, because we have contacts and networks all over. And once we develop your profile, we'll be tapping into those networks and we'll be making sure that the right people apply. I think Phil and Kathleen could attest to this too, but I'm very proud of this. In a recent search that I was part of, 5 out of the 6 candidates that we brought to the board for the slate for them to consider, 5 out of the 6 were people that didn't even know about that search, didn't have it on their radar, would never have applied unless we picked up the phone and called them because we thought they were perfect for the profile. That's what we excel at. That's what we can do a really good job with. We will also stick to our timelines. We'll involve all of your stakeholders. Kathleen's going to take you through that. And also, we have some very impressive success statistics about how long people stay in their job once we do a search. Our success rate is very impressive. Kathleen's going to give you a few more details about that. Let's move on, Cam. Kathleen?
Yes, I'm looking at the time. So just very quickly, our search process is rooted in Harold Webb and Associates, who came together and decided finding the right leader determines the future of the district. So I'm going to guide you through the multi-phase search process that we use to find outstanding candidates. Cam? There are 4 parts. We call them specification, recruitment, assessment, and selection. In terms of specification, that deals with our planning, and our planning is so very pointed and specific. We would begin by meeting with the Board of Education, and first and foremost determine how you wanted to proceed. We know that, like many other firms and businesses, we've had to learn new ways of working with clients and candidates in the age of COVID. So we would talk about whether or not you wanted a virtual search, a hybrid search, or a traditional search. Additionally, we would talk about board responsibilities and our responsibilities at each phase of the search. We would determine roles of all of your internal and external stakeholders, including your interim superintendent. What role? Other staff members. We think it's very important to engage every type of stakeholder, including students, in your process. We have provided for you a sample timeline, but we would need to customize it because we know you have a lot going on in the Loveland District right now, such as a search for a principal, as we understand it. And we want to make sure that the timeline we set for you doesn't interfere with your other meetings and your other responsibilities. We want to consider the options and preferences that you have regarding announcements and advertisements. And we'll talk about possible advertisements when Phil talks to you. We would like to talk to you about our role in helping you develop a compensation package. We would like to agree upon a communication plan to keep not only you informed every step of the way, but your community abreast of what you are doing and the search progress. And we want to be alert to any issues or challenges that you may have that arise that we need to be aware of. And we want to clarify and prioritize the scope of everything about getting your new leader. So that leads us to recruitment. We will be recruiting based on a leadership profile that I will be going into in more detail in a moment. Once we have that unique profile, we can have that national, Midwest, and Ohio reach to find the people that are best qualified and suited for your specific school district. It will be tailor-made for you. And the experiences and the qualifications and the skill sets also will be unique to you, as determined with the input from all of your stakeholders. We'll then draft an announcement of the vacancy immediately posted on our site. You must approve of it, however, and then we will thoughtfully, as we had done at the planning meeting, select national, state, regional publications such as BASA and groups that have a broad reach involving equity. We will notify our national search team of the vacancy and reach out all across the nation as best we can. And our
Our consultants, us, and others will keep you abreast every step of the way. Now, engaging stakeholders. This is what I'd like to spend some significant time. Not only does engaging stakeholders provide you with that unique profile, but it helps build a level of trust, confidence, and transparency with all of your stakeholders. We do that by having focus groups. We are not limited with how many focus groups you can have. We can reach into our other directors and associates to help with that, so that you get very strong and powerful feedback that we can call and give in a report to you that will provide your guidance when you accept that profile. Additionally, our survey that we would offer for you to utilize extends to everybody. We post it on your webpage. We provide you qualitative and quantitative data from that we can cross-reference between the information that you gleaned from the focus groups and the survey. And that information is critically important to be shared with your new superintendent when he or she is selected, to know the issues that were important. In addition, we will interview all of the board members individually. As I said, we will have those focus groups that are targeted, and we will work with you regarding that.
I'm sorry, but we're running a little short on time here. So if you can work with us on.
Sure, certainly. We will recruit, we will then assess using the applications with the leadership profile being the focus and the basis of all of our decision making. Phil, I'll let you go on, and then we will recommend candidates for you to interview, guide you with the interview process, provide a rubric for you to measure them against.
Thank you, Kathleen. If we could move on into the timeline. In the timeline, I'm not going to go through it step by step. It has already been mentioned. We know we need to coordinate that with the search that the board is currently doing for the high school principal. On the next slide, Cam, you'll see that we would, one slide back, please. Thank you. In April, late April, early May, we would wrap up the search for doing that as well. On the next slide, we want to be right up front with the board of what the cost would be. This is just an estimate. We will work with the board to develop a not to exceed cost. For example, consultant travel, depending upon which avenue would be taking for that, there may be no cost at all for that. The survey and office expenses, administrative support, we can work with you on that to come up with an all-in figure for that as well. On the next slide, I'd just like to summarize for you why BWP. As we've mentioned before, it would be both a local presence, a state presence, a Midwest presence, and a national presence. All three directors would be involved with the search. You would work with us, not with any other of our associates with that. We're very proud of our success rate. 95% of our candidates since 2006 have been offered a successor contract. Not one single candidate that we have placed has been found negligent or criminal activity as part of their performance as their duties as a superintendent. The search, we feel, is very important, would be done in an open and transparent way, and my colleagues have talked to you about the communication with that. And lastly, we think it is very important that we would share all communication, not just with the board, but also with the stakeholders as well. We thank the board for allowing us the privilege to interview with you. And we're open for any questions that you might have at this time.
Thank you, Phil. Let me ask my colleagues on the panel, any questions? Any
Kevin?
questions for the BWP? Kathy?
I just wanted to confirm your company is based, am I correct, based in Chicago?
And we're based out of Libertyville, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, yes.
Do you see that as posing, how do you see that working with work here in Loveland, Ohio? I think you've spoken to it, but I just was curious to confirm.
No, sure. That's a fair question with that. We would be very willing to, if it's going to be done in person or in hybrid, that we would, of course, transport back and forth. That's not a big deal with that. If it's done also virtually, then we would be happy to do that as well. But as was mentioned before, most of our work centers around Ohio, Illinois, Missouri, and Wisconsin and Indiana. So we basically stay in those areas with that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions from the team tonight? Cam, if you could stop sharing at this point, that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just thank Phil, Kathleen, and Joe, and Cam. Thank you for your help as well. Very much appreciate the information. We've got a lot to digest, and we'll be doing that over the next week or so, and I'm sure we'll be back in touch with you. Again, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
You bet. Have a
Good
good
luck with
evening.
your search.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, and our fifth presentation this evening is from Ray and Associates, and Mike Collins and Bridget Cheney will be joining us. For the public's information, we need to move presenters from the attendee category to the panelist category so you can see them all. So here's Mike and Bridget. Thank you both for being here tonight. I believe I'm doing the slides for you guys, right?
If you don't mind, that would be
Don't mind.
wonderful. And do you mind if I ask for you to advance when it's time?
I'll be fine with that.
Okay,
Let
thank
me,
you.
Are you ready for the slides to go up now?
Just yeah, if you can open up the first one, please. Yeah.
Okay, coming up.
There you go.
Okay, and just let me know when you need an advance.
Great.
Wonderful, thank you.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Mike Collins. I am blessed to be the president of Ray and Associates, and I'm about 120 miles from you because I live in Westerville, Ohio. I had the privilege of being one of you for 2 terms as I served on the Westerville City School Board and served 3 of those 8 years as president. And then I served 2 terms as an elected member of the State Board of Education, first representing actually most of Southeastern Ohio, and then got redistricted and represented Central Ohio. During that time frame, I did 2 searches as one of you as a city school board member, and I did 3.5. And then when Deb Delisle came in, I just entered, but I did 3 other searches on the state board, and actually met Ray and Associates because they did the last state superintendent that gave us Paula DeMaria. And I found them out of 4 search firms to be the most effective, the most efficient. And I reached out because as I was leaving the state board, I was creating an education consulting firm and they became a client. So I am also your regional director for Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So without further ado, that's not so important. I just want you to know that it's a pleasure to be with all of you and board members and fellow board members. And I'm going to ask Bridget if she would introduce herself, and then we'll move through the slides and then share some additional comments. And we'll do it in a very timely way. So hopefully our best interest is time for your questions and our conversation. So first off, thank you very much for considering our proposal. Oh, everything we're going to talk about is actually in there in some form or fashion. So is the cost. So it's all there. It's all public record. I'm happy to state it out loud. It's $18,000. Ours is all inclusive, just so we're clear up front. There are no office charges. The only thing that's not inclusive is your interest in advertising. And if we get, God willing, more face-to-face, would be travel expenses. So without further ado, and most importantly, let me introduce our regional associate in Bridget Cheney, who comes to you from Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you'd share a little bit about who you are, and then if you get us started, that'd be fabulous. Thanks, Bridget. Great to have you with us.
Absolutely. Thank you. And welcome to Ray and Associates. I am Bridget Cheney, and it is true. I'm coming to you from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and excited for the opportunity to present to distinguished board members. I am a practitioner, and so classroom teacher, principal, executive director at central office in the pre-K-12 space. So I think that's a beautiful match with Mike Collins, who is coming as a former board member and wore that hat and wears the hat of consultant. And I wear the hat of practitioner and live and breathe education from the inside each and every day. So passionate about what I do and absolutely finding the right fit for superintendency, because I just know how important that is for not only the board, but the community and most importantly, our children. So thank you for allowing us this time to present tonight. And we can certainly advance a slide if that's okay with you. Ray and Associates. We have been in business. I have not been with Ray and Associates since 1975. However, has been in business since 1975. The longest standing search firm for executive school leadership searches out there. And I'm very proud of, and I know the rest of our associates are as well, is that our consultants include women and minorities. And we have long-term experience in the school executive field. We have a plethora of backgrounds and school board members, university professors, attorneys, many of whom consult with one another on a regular basis to make sure that whatever expertise is needed, we can provide. And we recruit the nation's educational leaders as our primary business. So we come to you very authentically because our experience has taught us that we have to continually improve our practice. We want to be on the cutting edge of the profession, and we need to know what you need. What is your community hoping for? What is their desire in a leader? And what's going to take you to the next level? So next slide, please. You have met both of us. We are your team. So between Mike and myself, we will provide anything you need with this search. Conducting, if you go to the next slide, we'll get into a little bit of this, but conducting everything that we need to conduct, from community engagement through focus groups or full community meetings, all of those things. Our diversity, as you heard me reference earlier, women and minorities make up our team. Over 40% of our associates are women or minorities. And it gives us a wide perspective and a very deep perspective as well. And like I said, we're extremely proud of that. So next slide, please. One of the things that we are committed to, and this goes to my statement of authenticity, we believe from the depth of our souls that we must walk the path of eliminating institutional racism, because it's harmful to our schools, our communities, and the students that we serve each and every day. And not only do we have this statement as part of our pillar or tenet, we live this statement as well. So we made it as a declaration. We've had it as part of our declaration for a while now, prior to some of the events that occurred this last spring. However, and throughout the fall, however, we don't believe in just talking it, we also walk it. And that's an important part that you'll get with Ray and Associates. It is, like I say, deeply embedded in and ingrained in each one of us. And we're proud of that. And we will stand by that. Next slide, please. So the pool of candidates, the average number of candidates that complete an application per search is about 40 to 50 for us. Our website gets approximately 3,500 or more hits per month. So we have a lot of people that are looking for the right fit and to be represented and paired or partnered with a district that is a good match for them. So 3,500 hits, people who are looking and searching actively to become the next leader of a school district. And our ongoing candidate communications allows us to attract and maintain strong candidate interest. We have associates across the nation, and we have very large contact bases. So we can reach out to anyone that we think is a great fit for the district. And what we do make sure is that we're not taking from a district that we've already placed. So while we do have a large contact base, we will not take from another district to fill a superintendency. And I think that's an important notation to make. Next slide, please. The board input. This is your search. And I know each firm always says that because it's true. What we know is that we want to speak with you collectively, but also individually. We want to hear where you're at. Where is your community? Like I say, individually and collectively, because it's important to us to know what themes emerge when we speak individually, and then what do you know as a collective group about your next leader, your hopes, your dreams, and all of the things that the leader should have, the tenets that the leader should have when they come to you. So we are always very, very attuned to it being your search. You determine the stakeholder groups that we hold, whether it's a community meeting or more, whether it is focus groups, so the smaller intentional groups. You determine who they are. Are they some of your community members? Are they folks from within? Anybody you decide that we need to hold a group meeting with or a focus group, have the candidates interact with, we certainly will do so. You also determine the timeline and compensation. We have no problems whatsoever assisting you in the compensation conversation. We can make recommendations or show you things that we've seen across the country, comparables and things like that, but it ultimately is your decision. And the timeline, we know 90 days is typically the timeline for a superintendency placement to go through the search process. Within that timeline, there is a little bit of flexibility as far as when things are scheduled. Again, this is your search. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from your community members, and you finalize as the board the candidate profile. What is it you're looking for? Of course, we will help you do that through some of our tools that we use, and we will collect all of the information that is given to us through the interviews and the conversations, but ultimately you finalize the candidate profile because you live and breathe this each and every day. And it's important that you get exactly what you want in your next leader. Next slide, please.
Okay. Thank you, Bridget.
Yes.
If you don't mind, I'm sorry, but I get a turn also. So it's a pleasure. I'm going to take you through the actual process. Bridget gave us a great outline. So number one is, first of all, your board interviews are done individually. We give you the summary of the tenets and kind of the themes that you bring up, but everything you say stays with each of us. And it begins to that's one step in shaping your profile. Number two are these stakeholder meetings. Everybody talks about I engage the community. This is legitimacy. We literally will bring together groups that you recommend, and we will also suggest to you other groups. We typically do between 12 and 15 stakeholder meetings, which are focus groups. In all candor, when we did Shaker Heights, we did 31. And at the same time, when we were doing Cleveland Heights, we did 20. So this is really about how you want to build this and shape this. So you have community input direct with us with structured questions that you will see all the results. You have your board interviews, and then you have this other piece. This is an online survey for your entire community. We will ask that you encourage students to take it, teachers to take it, administrators to take it, classified staff to take it, all parents, all community members, all seniors. We're going to ask you to blast this out. It is a Survey Monkey format. It's 33 characteristics of 33 characteristics of successful superintendents. That's research-based. We update it every 2 years. And they're asked to pick 10 of those. We will give you the entire results from that, actually by groups, as well as what it says. We will ask every board member to take it. And from that, that's how we build your profile. This isn't just about a discussion with you. It's not about a discussion with 2 community meetings. It's all of these things together will build your profile. We will tally all the information. We will give you all the percentages, and there's an open comment section. So you will get to see what the public says in general, and it becomes a really good guide. I want to share one other thing, having been one of you. Superintendent searches, if done together well, can really strengthen and enhance the board's direction and role in the community going forward. And that's one of our quiet goals, as they say. It's not one of the stated goals, it's one of our quiet goals. Next slide, please. So recruitment is obviously in Ohio. I not only live 120 miles up the road, my sister lives next door to you, literally, or maybe two suburbs over. But our Ohio contacts are honestly, no offense, but is deeper than anybody else because of all the contacts I have in Ohio. But then there's regional. And then most importantly, particularly in this era of COVID, and in this era of, to be quite honest with you, there are more searches going on right now in the United States of America for superintendents than any time in decades. And that's the cause of COVID. So what I will tell you is we will balance that in that we have the largest pool of candidates in the country. We have the most active website in the country, but we will live in Southwestern Ohio and we will live in Ohio. But you won't be sheltered only by that opportunity. So you can read better than I speak. I'm not going to read each of these words to you, but we typically average 4 to 5 times more applicants than any other firm. But we certainly don't walk around like, because we're big, we'll overlook. And I will share with you that as a school board member, I was on the OSBA board of directors. I do the training for Ohio School Boards Association for their Levy University through an organization that I run called Support Ohio Schools. And so we're attached all the way around. But more importantly, we want to service you. You are an extremely successful district on the cusp of going from good to great. You've got some challenges in the community from where you've been, and you've got a real chance to take great steps forward with your community. We want this search to help be that direction. Next slide, please. All right. So we build this profile. It's also in your application. But when we screen candidates, so we get these 40 to 50 applications. We typically will screen them. You have access to see all of them if you want. We will show them all to you. But we will bring you the top 8 to 12 candidates we believe fit your profile, fits your demographic, and comes with that adequate and more than adequate experience that has a relationship to what Loveland is and what Loveland wants to be. So you hired us for a reason, and that is to at least share with you our best thinking on who are the best candidates that you want to look at in order to decide who you want to interview. We have no say in anything more than that. You're able to look at all the other candidates. If you want to add to it, you're more than welcome. The other thing we provide that others don't is we provide you a video interview with every single one of these 8 to 12. And in the stage 1 of our screening, we will have screened those candidates through interviews with their references, interviews with non-references, all the Bing, Google, and media background checks already done before you even see those. Our final background check for the finalists is done by a major national company and is everything but an FBI check. Next slide, please. So you will review these applications. You will decide who you want to interview based on that information, based on the videos. We have a scoring matrix. It's a scoring instrument. We developed it many, many years ago. It's a forced prioritization that assists in your consensus building and your decision on who to interview. Once you interview them, who to move on to finalists. Once you have the finalist, who you want to be your finalist. And it will guide your conversation, but it is the board consensus that determines all the progress of every single candidate. Next, last thing, if I may say, you can leave it there, that's fine. Last thing I wanted to add was we have research-based questions for you to ask the candidates in the phase 1 process and in the phase 2 process. You will be given those. They get updated every year. And then you will have an opportunity to modify them, keep some, edit some, get rid of some, add your own. The questions that you do in interviews will be yours, but we will give you a foundation to work from. Second of all, we will offer guidance on all the HR protocols that are very, very important when you get into this, such as you have to ask the same questions of all candidates, et cetera, et cetera. If you do follow-up questions, they have to be the same follow-up questions as far as we're concerned. There is real integrity in the process. You are a district of great integrity. We need to make sure that this work is a reflection of who you are. We also have, as one of your other presenters offered, we have a 2-year guarantee. If for some reason, just short of national, acts of God, health concern, certain health issues that we can't control. If for some reason the search doesn't work out, we will come back and do the search at no charge with the exception of advertising and travel. I will tell you that over 2,000 searches, we have placed over 2,000 superintendents. We're the only ones that broke 1,000 in the country. And I will tell you that we have 9 of these redos that we've had to do that wasn't because of certain totally extenuating circumstances. And the total is 15 in 45 years. Next slide. So before we get to that, I made one misstep here. I just want you to know that our follow-up is we will assist in the contract, but we are not lawyers. Most importantly is we will do, after 90 days, board interview, superintendent interview. And we will come back either every 6 months or every year for 2 years to do the same. And we will facilitate conversations either individually with the board or the superintendent or together as you choose at no cost. So there is a direct follow-up to this. So I just wanted to add that. And lastly, more importantly, and this is also in our proposal, again, you read better than I speak, but these are just some, there are very few of the many, many, many. We have letters of reference that these are quotes out of those letters. We wanted you to see that we go all the way from an enrollment of 220,000 to an enrollment of 1,800. And the last thing I want to say is that at this moment, that we know Loveland, we know Southwest. I know education in Ohio fairly well. Bridget Cheney is your real implementer, which is critical. And the other colleague that's in the proposal who can't be with us this evening is Dr. Karen Hall, who's a very recently, very young retired superintendent from a suburb very similar to Loveland, a suburb of St. Louis, Missouri. And she will be joining us in these constituent meetings and other things. And finally is that please keep in mind that we've done completed 60 digital searches where we've done all of this on Zoom, including community meetings for 130 and 140, as well as the focus groups. So whether we get to be hybrid or whether we have to do it all digital or we get to be live, we're very, very comfortable, and we would welcome the opportunity to share this with you. Sorry, Kevin, if we took a few more minutes.
That's okay, Mike. Let me just turn this off here. And let me just ask the panelists if there are any questions or comments. Kathy, please.
Just wanted to check, you noted when you talked about stakeholder meetings and focus groups and the survey, I wanted to be sure it seemed to be centered on 33 characteristics of a superintendent. Wondered if you have experience with districts that have wanted the focus groups or stakeholder meetings to do more than just talk about characteristics of a superintendent, to perhaps open up to more of a community input on the state of the district, the state of the world, anything more than those 33 characteristics.
Kathy, thank you for that question. And I'm sorry I wasn't clear, so I apologize. And by the way, it's good to see you. We've brought this past a couple of times, but is that no, actually our stakeholder meetings and your board interviews are not the characteristics. There is a set of questions for the board, which you all get to review to make sure if you want to add or change. But there are questions for the focus groups that have to do with strengths of the district, strengths of the community, critical issues, characteristics, management styles that you'd like to see in your next leader, et cetera, et cetera. And the last question that you all get asked, including every focus group, is there anybody out there you would like us to check with to see if they're in a situation that they might be looking for, they might be ready to move, or that somebody else knows that they feel would be a good fit? We call every single one of them. Never tell them they're recommended. We just tell them their names have surfaced. And the other side is we call people individually. We have scores of associates. That's really our network. And the 3,500 visits every month is how we build this. But I want to tell you that our pool is not our pool. Over 70% of the superintendents we place is not technically in our pool. They're outside that reach out that we find and bring to you. So we're not limited or taking care of our own, as one would say. And the last thing are the 2 guarantees. One is the 2-year commitment we already spoke to. The other one is that we have a 5-year guarantee that if we place, and this is what Bridget was alluding to earlier, is if we place a superintendent in any district, we do not reach back out to them for another job until they've been there at least 5 years. And that's a guarantee in the contract. Secondly is the average superintendent tenure for a district like Loveland is 3 to 4 years. If you're in Cincinnati, aside from what Mary Ronan made just not true after 9 years as superintendent. By the way, she sits on our National Advisory Council, but is that urban areas are 2 to 3 years. Our average for the first time over the last 10 years is we broke 7 years. 7 years, 1 month is our average stay for in an average overall of the superintendents we place. So we are believers in quality candidates, but longevity and guided leadership.
Thank you. Any other questions from the panel? Not seeing any. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you very much for being a part of the discussion tonight, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
We just want to say thank you, and most importantly, be well and be safe. and the best for the kids, and the kids to get back to school when they can.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Mr. Leip. Okay. So everyone should be aware that we have proposals and references from all the firms that you heard from tonight for the board to consider as we think through next steps on this. Let me thank all of tonight's presenters. I do mean that. This was a lot of information to take in, and we very much appreciate everyone's efforts. The board will consider the information that was provided to us all with any community input that we receive between now and our next meeting. We may have questions during this period, and we'll provide them to the firms if that is the case. And again, thanks to everyone, and especially to the Loveland community members watching this. Please share your thoughts to the email address board@lovelandschools.org. We really do look forward to hearing your comments. And with that, Kathy and the rest of the board, I'm done with this section. If you have any questions that you want to throw out right now, I'm happy to get into them. And if not, Kathy, I think it's back to you.
Okay, I'm not seeing anybody waving their hand for questions. Dr. Schwartzenau, I see you wave your hand now.
I just want to say, Kevin, you've done a lot of work already on this, and I really appreciate the organization you've brought to it and all the information that we've not only received up until now, but bringing all of these options together for us. So thanks.
Appreciate it, Eric. Thank you.
I agree. Thanks a lot, Kevin. That was a lot of work, a lot of information. And I'll just reiterate what you said, that the board will be discussing this in public session at our February 16th meeting. And we do appreciate any comments or questions that come from the community. If there are questions that seem to need answers that we could research, perhaps get those questions to us sooner rather than later. Certainly we can share feedback at the February 16th meeting, but that won't give us much time to get answers to questions. If there are questions that we need to share with the search groups or questions that the board needs to consider, they should come sooner rather than the time before the 16th meeting. So thank you all very much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time. The only other thing on our meeting this evening is a consideration of an executive session. And so unless there's anything else that needs to come before the board, we would consider going into executive session, and there is no action proposed for after that executive session. At this point, I would ask, and I'm making a slight change to the topic of executive session, I would ask for a motion to enter into executive session to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee or official. Is there a motion for that? I see Mrs. Washburn. Is there a second? I see Ms. Pettit. So we have a motion and second to enter into executive session to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee or official. Mr. Hawley, can we vote on that?
Ms. Pettit,
Yes.
Dr. Swetchina,
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz.
Yes. Motion carried. I have us going into executive session at 8:09. And so we will leave this meeting. We do leave it, I believe. Or Mr. Lapeham, yeah, I think we leave. We need Mr. Hawley back in. We can state that we're out of executive. Are we still live, Mr.? Okay. We are out of executive session at 9:27. We're waiting for Mr. Hawley to be a participant instead of an attendee, correct? There we are. So we are back in public session. And the only item on the agenda is to look for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Seconded.
I saw Ms. Pettit first, and so we get Dr. Swetchenow second. Mr. Hawley, can we vote on that?
Dr. Swetchenow,
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz,
Yes.
Ms. Pettit.
Yes.
Motion carried. I have the meeting adjourned at 9:28.
Good night, all.
Thank you.
Good night,
all very
everybody.
much.